All right, welcome everybody. Happy day before the 4th of July. This is going to be our HUD training part two of the broker price opinion, and then in the handout it's section three. Um, I don't go by the sections. I mean, the topic, yes, but I don't really go down a list because I've been doing it so long. And oh gosh, contractors, you gotta love them. Anyway, we're going to begin or pick up where we left off. Now, what we went through yesterday was the basic part of the BPO. It's a pretty standard basic information. Like I said, if you want to drill down and really get granular, you can. All right, it's not really expected, okay? But you can if you want to take the time, especially on your marketing area and so on and so forth. I usually do it by a zip code. I can get the analytics out of a zip code. Zip codes pretty much behave the same unless you're in a really niche area. Um, so anyway, do that. And then we pulled the comps. You saw what we did. Plus or minus 200 square feet to start, plus or minus 5 years in a year built. Style, you try to stick to the same style. What else? Lot size, things of that nature. And again, your goal is to compare an apple and an apple. And the reality of it is, most of the time, you're not going to be able to. So then, hence the adjustments that need to be made. Okay. Jalen, are you on here with your computer?
I am.
All right. How much of it were you able to get loaded in?
Um, one of each.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna bring up one of mine that I just did yesterday. All right. Jalen, while you're listening, I want you to continue loading those comps. Okay.
Okay.
And let me share my screen because I literally just did this one yesterday. Okay, this obviously is not what we worked on yesterday, but in any event, here's the BPO. And like I said, it is in hard form, and obviously. So I filled out all the data up here, went down through the list, blah, blah, blah. As a matter of fact, before we get going on this, let me show you something else. Okay, as we discussed, I got two streets. There's the front, window signs, the address, electric meter, blah, 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 front, side, rear, another view of the rear, left side, and here's the interior. Now, this house that Jalen has is it's a nice home, okay, in a nice area, but it is very dated. In the 70s and 80s, that was a tippy top nice home, okay. But like this one, similar. It's dated, got the old wood cabinets. I think this was built in the early 60s, late 50s. Same thing as the other property that we were talking about. Took pictures of everything. You can see where I'm showing the cabinets clear, blah, blah, blah. Everything's winterized. There's a bathroom, bedrooms. You can see it's old. It's old and dated. Okay. Not that it's not functional, but it's just dated. Okay. So when and I'm going somewhere with this, okay? There was evidence of an old water leak right there, took and documented that. And then I put in a work order notification for the gutters and these shrubs up against the house. I don't know if you can see that. I can zoom in just a little bit. Should have just typed it in there, but anyway. They have the shrubs up against the house. They haven't been trimmed. I got stuff growing out of gutters. This is unacceptable. Field services should never have turned this particular property over to the asset manager without taking care of this first, but they did. Okay, so I have to report it. And basically, I'm throwing them under the bus. I can't market this property like this. Granted, it needs work. Granted, it's dated. Granted, there's probably some quote repairs that need to be made. Okay, but at the same time, um, they should have done the rest of this. I can't sell this house. HUD wants their properties, at least aesthetically, to look, as good as they possibly can. Some of them are really nice, like Jalen's got there. This is a little bit older. The BPO value came in around 93 or 94,000. Okay. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, we take them all. Okay. So anyway, this is the form. Let me go back to the other one. And let's talk about it. Okay, I pulled my comps. Okay, let me zoom in just, it was a Control Plus, I think it is. Or is it, yeah, Control Plus. Okay, there it is. That's better. All right, so I pulled my comparables, just like we left off last night. I went through the same thing, pulled the comparables that I could find that were the best ones. Now I've already done this BPO. Okay. So I got my subject property, and here this is my sold comparable 2112 North Ball. It's about point seven miles. It is not an REO or a HUD or anything like that. Sometimes you will, if you can find an REO that is comparable, use one either for the sold side and one for the list side if you can find them in your area, in that particular area. Don't go out 3 or 4 miles to find one. If it's in the area, and it will say, fix her up. And sometimes the descriptions, they don't put, if you see sold as is, most likely it's going to be an REO or a HUD, but you can kind of determine that. So I put in all the data of the comp. Now, put in the financing, it was cash. If you look over here to the right, this one was so conventional and had $4,000 worth of concessions. Okay, so you're going to subtract whatever concessions there are. Just basically comes right off the sold price. Okay, so you subtract on that. Now, one of the things you need to remember is this. Here's your subject property. Here's your comparable. The item that you are describing, whether it's the condition, the room count, the living area, gross living area, above ground, only above ground. All right. If it is inferior, you're going to add. That your adjustment is going to be an addition. Okay. If it's superior, you need to subtract. That's the easiest way to remember it. If your comp in whatever category you're in is a superior, you're going to subtract. If it's inferior, you're going to add. And if it's equal, obviously there's no adjustment. Okay. So I'm coming down my list. FHA, this one was a FHA. They had no concessions, which was great. Fee simple, you cannot use a leasehold. Okay. So if it says renters or whatever, can't show until whatever, blah, 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 renters, no. You cannot use a leasehold. must be straight sale, arm's length straight sale. Well, that's not correct. It must be a straight sale. Arm's length means no distress. Arm's length means no distress. So technically, it's not an arm's length sale. All right. So you put your views in. This is the design and appeal. Ours is a stone home, and this is brick. Okay, this one's all brick. So we're not going to make an adjustment for brick. Okay. This was our subject was built in 59. This was 60, no adjustment. Now, almost always I call my properties and the condition. Let me explain it this way. You've got poor, fair, average, good, and excellent. Excellent is a new construction. Poor is not livable at all. Okay. So you're not going to probably use unless it's a brand new construction home that got foreclosed on, you're never going to use excellent ever. I don't care if they rehab that house and it's all pretty and this, that, and the other. It's not excellent. It's good. Okay. So I almost always call my HUD properties fair condition. Okay. Now, the next comp, the first comp, I subtracted $7,500 because I said that one's in pretty average condition. Might have had, it's not all fixed up, but at the same time, it's move-in ready, no problems. You can move right in. You might want to do some painting. You might want to replace some carpets or stuff because they're worn a little bit or whatever. But the bottom line, that is an average home. Okay. And if it's good condition, they've done some updating in the last 5 years or so, maybe 10, new HVAC, new roof, whatever the case. And you can read the description because they're going to tout what they did. Okay. So now let me help you understand this. Okay. In these adjustments, this is a matter of opinion. Okay. This is your opinion. What in your area, in this price point, let's just say $100,000 to $200,000. On the condition, I always use $7,500. If this was a 200 to 300 range, I would double that number. It would be 15,000. If this went to the $200,000 to $300,000 range, I'm sorry, $300,000 to $400,000 range, that would be a different number. So what's that truly worth? That condition change. Is it worth for each level? Your subject is fair. You go to average. Okay. I always use 7,500 and double it for the next $100,000 range, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Not double, but you understand. I have a base that I start with, and then go up from there. Okay, because you're in a different price point, your area. Like at this one, the second comp for the condition is good. It's had some updates. It was great, blah, blah, blah. So I'm saying that's good. But I jumped 2 levels. I jumped from fair to average, and then from average to good. So in this price point, $7,500 per jump, I subtracted 15,000 because it's superior to the subject. Does that make sense? Okay. If this was in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, I would have each jump would have been $15,000. And the thought process is this. Okay. Yeah, I walked in, I looked, it's dated, and old paneling, old color brown, old grody cabinets and vanities and this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. So I'm making an adjustment on the condition in this category. Okay. And it's an opinion. All right. And no, when we make adjustments on square footage, you're not going to drill down to $5,280. All right. You're going to round it off 5,300, 5,500, 5,000, whatever. You're not going to drill down to the penny. Okay. They don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. All right. You don't want to do it. Do your best guess estimate and make the adjustment. Okay. All right. So on this one, the first comp, first sold comp, GLA above ground is almost identical. All right. But it has an extra half bath. So I made an adjustment for that. Now, in your market, okay, you have to know your market, but in your market, that half bath, what is it worth to have that? You got 3 bedrooms and a 1 bath in the subject. Well, that's the functionality is really not functional. Okay. You understand what I'm trying to say? Most today's standards, if you had 3 bedrooms, you're going to have at least a bath and a half, and most likely you're going to have a 3-2. Okay. In today's world, back then, that's the way they built them. That's the way it was. Okay. 1959. So you have to decide what that value on that half bath. Now, let me tell you this. Over here, well, I'll show you the other one here in a minute. If you adjust for square footage or you adjust for beds, baths, you cannot do both. You can only adjust for one of those. We call that double dipping. Okay. On that particular line item right there, either beds, baths, or above ground square footage, you can only adjust for one. Now, that doesn't mean that on comp one, I adjust for beds, baths, and then comp two, I adjust for square footage. You can do that. You just can't do both. Okay. So anyway, so our subject property has crawl space. This has a full basement. And I'm sure it's probably unfinished year built. It might be finished, who knows? But I couldn't tell and I don't care, honestly. So I adjusted 12 negatively because that is a better situation. It's superior to the subject. So I actually adjusted $12,500 for the basement. And the reason why I adjusted that much, at least at this price point, was simply because in our area, that extra storage has a lot of value. Okay. Even though it may not be finished, you can store stuff in there rather than going to the little unit places and get renting one for a year. Okay. Over time, that has value. Now, in your area, that may be nothing to you guys. I don't know. Okay. That's why that was such a large adjustment on that one. Functional utility. Ours has a forced air gas, but it doesn't have an air conditioner. I don't know if it ever had. So I make an adjustment. FACA. So I subtract. That's better than the subject. So I subtract. Now you need to decide in your area what that is actually worth. $2,500 at this price point is fine. But if you go to the three, four, $500,000 price range, that adjustment may not be adequate. Or they may have split units, zoned heating, cooling, stuff like that. A lot of the three, four, five, $600,000 homes do. 2 AC, 2 furnaces, stuff like that. So you're going to you have to make a decision on what dollar figure you're going to go with that. Now, whatever you go with in that price point, you must be consistent throughout the report. Okay. So basements here, it was a full basement. Now, if I had a quarter basement or a half basement, I would adjust differently. But I'm saying all things being equal, if I had a full basement on comp two, of 1,064 square feet, it's pretty close. I would make the same adjustment. But if it was only 560 square foot, I would do a half an adjustment. Okay. Now here, ours has a two car attached garage. This one has none. So it's worse. Oh, thank you. Oh, I love it when they give me money. Anyway, the garages. In this price point, in this location, I know the area. Okay. I know what that value is worth. In this case, $4,000 per bay. Okay. But in your area, that garage might be golden. There's not many people don't have garages in that neighborhood. So that garage may be worth a hell of a lot more. Okay. That's your decision. All right. What that garage is actually worth. Okay. You make the determination. Now, if this was a $300,000 house, I would still do the $4,000 a bay, but I would make it 12. Okay. From 100,000 to 2 to 3. You understand? Okay. That adjustment would be 12 per bay or 24,000. Okay. Does this make sense to y'all? And y'all look at me like, okay, Todd, we get it. Shut up. I want to make sure it makes sense because this is where people really stumble is the broker price opinion. Okay. All right. Your form, as you're going down, as long as you don't do anything to it, you just download it and it will auto adjust for you as you make your adjustments. And also, if there's zeros, fill out your zeros all the way through. Okay. Same thing with this. It's all suburban, fee simple. I made adjustments for the lot size. This one was almost 2/3 of an acre. I made small adjustments. And this is my methodology, especially when it comes to acreage. Your lot is your lot, whether it's a half an acre or a quarter acre. I typically go up to an acre. Okay. That's your lot. So I don't make big adjustments on just quote the lot. You have a base lot. Okay. And I make smaller adjustments. But if I had a comp that had 2 acres, okay, I would adjust for that first acre in smaller increments because that's the base lot. That's your homestead. And then the rest of the acreage is extra. You understand what I'm trying to say here? Okay. So I adjust basically on a model of, okay, I've got my base lot up to an acre. Anything above and beyond that, then I'm going to put a different figure to that. If it's another acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, I don't want that. But if that's the comp I have to use and I can't find anything else similar, then that's the methodology I'm going to use. Okay. Because the house, the square footage, everything fits really well, except that damn lot. Okay. So I'm still going to use it, but I'm going to adjust accordingly. And you're going to have to make the decision. What is that extra acreage above and beyond, quote, the up to an acre of a lot? What's that worth in your area? And that's subjective. No, I don't want you going in and looking at lot prices. Okay. Make your best educated guess and move forward. I mean, if you want to take the time to do it, fine. Don't. Please don't. Don't waste your time. All right. So anyway, as we get down through here, we talked about the garages, porches, patios. I do those as a wash, one or the other. If there was a fireplace, I would add that in FP. I always add FP/FP, porch/FP. So I'd make an adjustment for the fireplace. Okay. It's not a huge adjustment. A lot of people don't like them. Okay. But you need to determine that in your market. What's that worth? What is that actually worth in your market? Adjust accordingly. And then be consistent throughout your report. Okay. So it does auto adjustments all the way down. Now, this home needs some work. So we jump to this side of it. Marketing strategy, occupancy, it's vacant. It's always as is. HUD doesn't do anything. Okay. They used to years ago, but they don't anymore. And the most likely buyer for this particular property, in my opinion, is going to be an investor. An end user or homeowner is not going to buy this property with the amount of work that needs to be done. That's my opinion. So I come in and say what I think this needs to bring this to average or good condition. Okay. And I list everything in here. This is more than I normally list. So usually it's 4 or 5 things, maybe. Okay. Replace the roof, get the paint, exterior paint. There's a big tree branch hanging over the house, which creates a hazard. And if I'm going to buy this house, I'm going to cut that branch. It's going to cost me money. Okay. So I put that in there. Replace all floor coverings, paint all interior, repair water damages, the damages I saw, update the kitchen, update the bathrooms. Oh, that's actually wrong. Bathroom. Oops. Okay. I turned this in already, but anyway. The HVAC, there's no AC unit, and the furnace is about as old as I am. So anyway, that should tell you something. And then I always, to help me round out my numbers, I'll always put in a carpentry slash miscellaneous, okay, to round my numbers. And usually it's warranted anyway, okay? But keep in mind, and this is something I want to say, when you replace all floor coverings, that includes the bathrooms and the kitchen. When you paint all the interior, that includes the bathrooms and the kitchens. So when I say update kitchen, the price of that piece of it has already been factored in over here. I'm just now talking about vanities, tubs, toilets, the porcelain or not. It could be, plastic inserts, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So I put a dollar figure to that. So that price is already, replace floor coverings, paint all interior, and then you bump up your huge price on the kitchen and the bathroom updating. Well, you shouldn't. Okay, you've already covered that price in the floor and the paint. Okay, so we're at 130. Okay, so again, I come down and do my competitive listings. Okay, and I got fortunate. All of these are ranches, but I'm making it, my subject property is a stone, all stone. Okay, Bedford stone actually. But this is aluminum. I should probably adjust upwards a little bit more, but at this price point, I'm not. In your area, this price point might be eight, nine, $10,000. You have to kind of decide. I've been doing this so long. I want my numbers to jive because I know what this property is going to sell for. And I've been doing this so long. I know what that property is going to, plus or minus 10%, I'm going to be spot on. Okay. So anyway, I made a small adjustment for that, but that could be worth more. Vinyl, I just treated it the same. It's a cover board. It's covering boards and sheetrock. Okay, or not sheetrock. But anyway, you understand what I'm trying to say. So I just 3,000 there. So on these were better condition. So I made the adjustment, 2 jumps, down 15,000. This only had 5 rooms total, 3, 1. It's 1145 and 1144. I just left it alone. I made no adjustment at all. Okay. Even though there's an extra 1 or 2 rooms technically in the subject property, I did not adjust for that. Oh, let me talk about this. Solar panels. Some of you all live in areas that solar panels, you see them. Okay. If you ever get a HUD property that has solar panels, you're going to have to go to work. We're going to need to determine if those were leased by the previous homeowner or they owned them. Okay. And they're not going to say, I need to know tomorrow in 24 hours, or you might have to do a little research and a little checking around and this, that, and the other. All right. But we need to know who owns those solar panels, because whoever owns them, if it's they leased them, they may want to come and get them. Okay. So we need to make sure that happens because that's the deal. As we slide down through here, I made my adjustments. I adjusted small amounts on this square footage because, plus or minus 200. I still wanted to make a slight adjustment on this one. This one was a little over. I didn't. Okay. But I did make an adjustment for beds, baths here. All right. So it auto adjusts down. And your listings, don't care. I don't care what they say. Okay. Nothing at all. You made your adjustments. You're turning it in. Fair enough. Now, it's going to ask you, what is your market value as this property sits today? What do you think it will sell for? Okay. And this is HUD, keep in mind. So once you do your sold comps and make your adjustments, your value has to fall between your lowest and your highest adjusted comp values. So those three comps you pulled, your value must fall within that range. Okay. So the amount of work that's needed, I got 86.5, 106, 108 after adjustments. I went to the lower end of this because I know how much work it truly needs. Plus, there's probably some hidden things that I couldn't see. Okay. So I went to the lower end and I said 94,000. On HUD, if that's what you say the market value is, that is your suggested list price. Okay. It's not 96.9, 97.9. I understand the thought process. I get that. All right. But at the same time, this is HUD. When you come up with your value, it's 94. Okay. Suggested list price is 94. The repaired value is whatever your value in repairs, you add it to the 94. So ours was $32,000 to get this house into shape. Okay. And that still won't cover everything. Okay. But still. So I just added to it 126, 126. And if you add your 30-day value, it's typically roughly about 10% less than your as is 100 or 90 to 120-day average. Okay. I just usually take 10% and round it. Don't say it's, 85, $650. Don't do that. Just round it up or down. Then I put in my comments, but I wrote a book because I sent this to my asset manager. I wrote a book, but I didn't put it on the form, but subject needs zero repairs or updating, blah, 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 blah. You tell a story. Okay. I have a good relationship with my asset manager. So I emailed her everything that was wrong with the property, including the work order notifications. You all are going to put it on the forms that you turn in for your property inspection reports. And that will trigger them to issue the work orders. Okay. But I put a small little in here, but here, because it's a hard form, when you get down here to the end, it doesn't automatically go to the next line if you'll run out of space. So you'll have to click it and continue the thoughts down the line. And what you're looking to do is you want to tell the story a little bit about the property, not a novel, a couple of sentences. Tell about it. Tell them, you got somebody sitting in an office somewhere, and all they have is photos and whatever you tell them. So tell them what's going on. Okay. You want to talk about your comps. I use the best comps, blah, blah, blah. I had to use list comp number 2. Was a little farther than what I wanted to use, but I had a lack of comps in the immediate area, blah, blah, blah. You tell them what you're doing. You can do anything as long as you justify it. You just got to tell them, because if you don't tell them whatever it is you're doing, that doesn't look normal, then they're going to send it back and say rejected. What's going on here? I'm not going to take this. This doesn't make any sense. You tell them, okay? Then you're going to get properties from time to time that the comps, they just don't work. There's no comps. There's no real comps to compare. So you're taking 1 stories, 2 stories, story and a half, tri-level, split level. It doesn't make any sense to somebody looking at your BPO as long as you tell them in the BPO, this is why I did what I did, is simply because there's not enough. I grabbed all the 1 stories that I could, but then I had to jump to 2 stories, story and a half, whatever. You just tell them that. And that's why I did what I did. Okay. And then on your form, this is your BPO. All right. You won't have this down here. You'll submit your BPO. All right. You'll date it, sign it. Well, the signing is just type your name in there. Okay. So, and put your address in there. And then you'll submit it. When you're done, you'll submit it. I'm with Rain. You guys will be with 18. All right. In Rain, I have to put this included, these pictures with it. But this is the same thing. Only you'll go to the BPO photo addendum. You'll submit your BPO, boom, BPO photo addendum. You need one photo of the front, which you took, of the property, subject. And then you'll add 6 others, the front of each one of your comps. And this is a long form. I never put all that crap in there. Okay. And you'll label them. You'll label them when you log in, and you'll upload those 7 photos. The subject property, front, and you label it subject. The tag is front, the label is subject. Okay. Then you'll go down, and every one of these others will be front. Front, that's your tag. And then you'll label them sold 1. Sold comp, you can say sold comp 1. I just always put sold 1, sold 2, sold 3. Same thing. Listing 1, listing 2, listing 3. That's the BPO photo addendum. Those 7 photos, tag them all as front, and then label what they are. So you will have to take the photos out of the MLS. And no, there's no copyright issues with this, okay? We're what, 141. All right, questions? Come on, somebody has to have something.
All right. Quick question, Todd. All right. So accurate. I mean, are we trying to get just you know super accurate when it comes to all right? We need to replace a heat and cooling system, roof. How would you suggest? Getting those estimated values of things that need to be replaced.
Well, there are programs out there that you can use. I think some of them are free, like Exactimate is not free, but Exactimate, Blue Hammer, those exist out there, and you could get down to the nitty gritty on the pricing. I would just use estimates. All right, your best guess. What's it going to cost to replace an AC unit or the entire HVA system, that type of thing. I know I've got 3,600 square foot above ground. I got 1,600 below ground, all finished. Well, it was finished. Now they're finishing again from the flood. But in any event, my system I replaced in 21, the entire HVA system, and that cost me about 9 grand. So you have to look at it. It's tonnage, what is it, BTU. You know, you have to kind of look at it. On this house of 1,100 square feet, that system's not going to be 9 grand. It's going to probably be closer to 5 or 6.
Got you.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah,
You're
yeah.
using your best guesstimate, okay? The swag method, you all have heard of that? The swag method? No? Scientific, wild ass guess?
No, that was great. I was
That's the
gonna
swag method, okay?
I was gonna share this. I was at an investor meeting last week, and the one of the investors shared, you know, he just used Chat GPT to help him do an estimate, and it actually he said, you know, he has, you know, his 10+ years of experience, and he threw, you know, what needed to be repaired into there, didn't give it really any other instructions. And he said it came within a $500 variance of what he had, you know, what he had initially quoted. So I thought that
Really?
was interesting. Yeah. And he put, you know, area code, you know, I'm sorry, zip code, and what just typical repairs. And he said it came within a $500 variance in 15 seconds. He's like, my 10 years versus 15 seconds. Got a good answer.
Well, no,
So I'm gonna
you
share
can
that.
use that. You really can use that. The AI is really becoming it's really good in a lot of things. I'm actually using it right now to help put together some videos and some scripting and different things like that, and it's pretty good. I will give it that.
Yeah,
Um,
the time.
it just doesn't have quite the human touch yet. So,
Hey, I had a question
yes, sir.
on your cost of repairs and stuff on there, and maybe it's just different per area
It
too. But
is.
I felt like they were kind of low compared to what I'm getting quoted from like contractors. Not
Mhm.
so I do should, but those probably would be prices in line with prices that an investor could get because they have an HVAC guy, they have a flooring guy, you know, that can do it less than if you go to the big box flooring store or whatever.
Oh, I never pay full retail for hardly anything. Okay.
But
Never,
but
never,
are those the numbers you're using then
pretty
for
much.
when
Yeah.
you got a guy almost?
Yeah. I know a guy.
All right, yeah.
But listen, if you want to use those pricings, hey, you can. It's not a problem. Okay. Like I said, I've been doing this for HUD, I've been doing it 15 years, but for REO, I've been doing it 25. So I kind of know what's going on. Am I off 500 on this one and 300 on that one and maybe even 1,000 on the roof? Okay, fine. All right. But in the end, it's going to come in somewhere in that range. You know, I just been doing it so long. And that's you're going to have to use your best guess, best situation that you're going to. And if Chat GPT, you just write in, you know, what you need, and if it gives it to you, hey, no sweat. Use that. I'm usually from start to finish. For the time I sit down, I've got all my photos. I uploaded them into my file on a BPO, a normal regular BPO. Even if I have a little trouble finding comps, I'm usually done in 30 minutes. Okay, you know, 35 if I'm having, you know, I'm having fits on finding some comps or whatever. But at some point, you have to make the decision. You know, what's that all that time really worth? Okay. I want to make money. The BPO is, yeah, I need to be as accurate as I can because we do get graded on these. Okay. We do. Typically it's plus or minus 10%. Okay. And I'm usually pretty close. So anyway,
Plus or minus 10% of what it actually sells for.
what
Hmm.
the actual closed sales price is. So what else? I'm hoping this makes sense because there is you in your market, and this is $100,000 home, okay, in its current condition, and even if it was repaired, it wouldn't sell for more than 140, okay. So I come in at 94. So the bottom line is you're going to have to make a determination in your market. You know, are you, you know, like Jalen, he's got one that's going to come in over $300,000. All right, that's a pretty good HUD for the most part. Okay, um, his adjustments are going to be larger adjustments for each category simply because of the price point. This is 100K. So you need to kind of decide on, I'm just giving you an example of how I'm doing it. Now you're going to need to say, okay, what's this worth? You know, now when you make, a lot of times I get into areas, especially in the rural communities. Um, let me stop this real quick. In the rural community, I am all over the place. All right. I can't find comps. I've got a spot over Champaign, Illinois, I cover out there, and it's literally cornfields for miles. All right. And I have to use all kinds of weird comps. I go out to 5, 6, 7. Sometimes I've gone out to 10 miles because I just can't find anything. Okay. It happens. As long as you tell them what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you know, you got a map, look on it. Okay, there's nothing. There's nothing there. Okay. That's a joke, but you understand. Don't be mean to the asset managers. Because they determine what you get and what you don't get. But explain it. That's my point. Okay. So it happens. And you're just going to have to make a decision on what things are worth. And where I was getting ready to go with that, I get into the weeds sometimes, is okay, you get a small property, little cottage, bungalow, whatever. But you're subject to 3-2. Okay. But you had no choice but to use that 2-bedroom, 1-bath versus that 3-bed subject property, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, maybe. Okay. You didn't have any other comps. There was nothing else around for miles and miles. All right. Now, when you go from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom versus from a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom, okay, my adjustment on that 2-bedroom to 3 would be a larger adjustment. Okay. You understand what I'm trying to say? Then from the 3-bedroom to the 4th bedroom. Now, don't get me wrong, there's people who have large families, that 4-bedroom makes perfect sense. But average today, 3-2, most people can make that work, whether they want to or not, they can make it work. Okay. But the value of the 3rd to the 4th bedroom versus the value from the 2nd to the 3rd, I would make a distinction between those two. Because going from 2 to 3 is much more valuable than going from a 3 to a 4. Does that make sense? But if everything in the neighborhood, you get a cookie cutter, okay, Vinyl Village, all right, and probably have those in your area. If everything is at least a 3-bedroom in the area, that 2 I would never use. I'd find something else, 3 or 4 or whatever. Use your best judgment, use discernment. All right. Does this make sense? Well, no, really, I don't like using this comp, but I don't have really a choice. Okay. So if you have to use it, justify it. That's it. Sold comp 1, had to use because of blank, blank, blank. That type of thing. Does
Typically,
it make sense?
I have one question. Typically, how much of an adjustment do you do per bedroom?
What's that bedroom worth in your market? I don't know. I know what it's worth in my market. Okay. But in your market, it could be very different. Look at the comps, look around, see what things are selling for, the jumps and the differences. You can kind of determine that. But eventually you're going to settle in on a 5,000, 10,000. If you're in the $500,000 range, that extra bedroom or that extra bathroom has more value. All right. So you have to adjust accordingly. I'm going to adjust differently on the $100,000 house than I am on the 3, 4, or 500,000 house. You know, it's your best guess, but whatever you decide on, just be consistent throughout the report. If you're, making it, usually most of the time, I make the adjustment on square footage because sometimes I just can't find the square footage I'm looking for. And that happens a lot. So I adjust for square footage. And no, it's worth, if I've sold it, it's going to be $121 a square foot or whatever, 150, whatever it is. No, do not adjust that much in your square footage adjustments. 30, 40, 50 a square if you need to make it, if it's a plus or if it's over the 200 square foot. Okay. Don't do the 130, 140 a square. That makes no sense because of what it is. Okay. I hope this makes sense. I don't want anybody, most of you are traditional agents and you think a certain way, and I get that. Okay. But this is REO, this is HUD. So we need to dial it back a little bit and be a little bit more conservative. Okay. What else? I got 154.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I was trying to get to my little mute button deal here. So on so you said we want to be within a 10% variance when it's at sale, at sale price. Yeah, so I mean if you err on the side of, conservative, is that a little safer bet?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying, and then trying to come in at the highest market, but we're thinking, like investors, hey, they trying to get something that, with that 70% rule kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and keep it low. Uh, we're safer if we just keep it tightly conservative.
Yes. And also because of what's going on in the market today.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
right. The cost of money is a lot higher. And there's fewer buyers out there.
Mhm.
Okay. They just are.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all heard, but EXP just laid off a bunch of people. Okay. Yeah. Mostly the VAs, a few ASAs. And but the same stories, I only heard about it through a source, but Keller Williams, they just laid off a crap ton of people at their corporate office, a huge amount. Remax at their corporate, they just laid off a bunch. So it's because of the down and the volume. The volume's down because there's just not enough buyers out there with these higher interest rates. Okay. And just letting you know that's what's going on right now. All right. And there's not a feeding frenzy, and the inventory levels are increasing. Okay. That's why I say put that damn sign on the window where prominently where everybody can see it, because the investors watch these properties. I guarantee you they do. Okay. And if you can get a couple of investors driving by and start working with them, not only can you double in them, but you can help find them other things. Because the investors are watching right now because the inventory levels are increasing, prices are dropping. I know there were 61 markets. Yeah, I think there were 61 markets that are dropping in price right now. That report just came out. Major markets. So the Bergs and the Vills, a lot of times those prices are not too bad. They kind of stay steady. They may drop a little bit, but the Bergs and the Vills, but the major metros, prices are dropping like crazy right now. Not enough buyers and too many sellers. So hell, even all the what do you call it? The REITs, the hedge funds, the REITs, they're starting not to sell off some of their portfolios. Because I keep up with that.
Well, what source?
That should tell you something right now. Okay, when they start selling their product, guess what? They understand what's happening. And you guys are actually positioned right now in a good spot. Okay, because these inventories levels are going to increase.
What sources do you use to gather some of that data?
What do you mean? Where
Is
did
it,
I get my data?
yeah, is there any kind of like trade sources that you keep up with? Anything like that?
Well, I watch my guy. Oh man, I consume all kinds of video and audio on YouTube, and I only follow the ones that have really good data. I follow the wholesalers. The wholesalers are full of information. Okay, I follow Brent Daniels, Max Maxwell, Pace Morby, Jamil. Um, I follow all the wholesalers because they have more real-time data than we do. Okay. And then I follow, gosh, what's the guy's name? He backs up everything he does with data. Reventure. I follow that dude. You can find him on YouTube, and he backs up everything it does with data. Hard data. So, and I run across a few, and some of them I follow, and some of them I don't. But I do a lot of driving around. I have to do inspections. I get new listings. I got to go driving all over. I cover Illinois. I cover Kentucky, Indiana. So I'm all over the place. So when I'm driving around, I consume a lot of video, audio stuff. So I got 159. What else? Any other questions right now? Does this make sense? I hope so. But when you get your first listing, it's all going to fly out the window and you're going to be calling me. I already know that. So it's to be expected. Okay. Now, so let's kind of call this the end of the broker price opinion. What happens next? You did your initial inspection, turned in your PIR and photos. Now you've done your BPO. All right. Now I told you that when you submit your PIR and photos, you're going to get an email and it's going to come from the 18 people and it's going to say an appraiser has been assigned. Okay. Before you get to the BPO. Okay. They are going to give you the email. You're going to reach out and arrange access for the appraiser. They have 7 days from the date they are assigned, 7 days to turn it in. Okay. So in that window of time, you know, maybe you get some leads out of your little window sign and things like that. Great. What happens next? You've turned everything in. As soon as the appraiser turns in their report, the next thing is they're going to trigger a ready to list inspection. We're going to cover the ready to list next week. That's easy. It's not opening cabinets and all that. It's just 2 pictures of each room, all 4 sides, street address, normal stuff, just snap. But when you do the ready to list, you will also take the undated marketing photos. Get those in your possession. Okay. All right. Have those ready to go. Try to take the best photos. I always recommend if it's a great day when you go to the property initially, go ahead and take those. All right. Because when you go back for the ready to list, it might be gloomy, raining, storming, whatever. You know what I mean? It's digital photographs. It isn't like the days we were taking Polaroids. So, all right. Then the ready to list comes. All right. As soon as you turn that in, the next thing that happens, and this is what we're going to cover next Wednesday, is the listing agreement. Usually 24 to 48 hours later, you'll get the LA. And it will come with a virtual tour. They don't allow us to use those little pan a photograph, a still photograph anymore. I think I talked about this once, but I want to reiterate it. You typically just take my phone, turn it sideways, and make a video. I start at the front of the property. It's going to be a little Blair Witch, but that's okay. Just got to keep it as steady as you can. And I just walk to the front door. I don't say anything. I look, pan around to the living room, go through the kitchen, just showing them and go. 3 or 4 minutes, and then I upload them to a YouTube channel that I have. And then when they ask for the virtual tour, and the listing agreement comes, then at that point, then I upload it there. Okay. Easy peasy. I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on these HUD properties. You know, if I got a $500,000 to $1 million property, yeah, I'll spend the money to somebody to go out and do it. On these, no.
I'm actually like a homes.com something member or whatever, and they started doing like free Matterports. As long as it's not branded to homes.com, can we use those as well?
Yeah. Yeah, Matterport you can use if you know how to do it. But what's her name? Tina, she's out of Oklahoma. She says he has to go to Canva first to kind of get them all together and then do the Matterport stuff. I don't know anything about it. If it makes sense, don't make sense. I don't know. I just remember her talking about it.
All right.
I'm a pretty simple guy. I use the basics and get it done. But I don't do traditional high-end stuff. I did get a 1.1. I got a 1.1 REO. Now in California, that's a shock. But here in Indiana, 1.1, that's decent property, okay? So, 600K home is a garage in California. So, all right. Anyway, that's what happens. Then after you do this, it comes in ready to list, turn it in. Then you get the listing agreement, get it in the MLS, do all your stuff. Now, when you put the sign up, your sign up, okay? Remember that what I said in the beginning, you do have to get a sign writer, okay? So don't buy them now. Wait till but when you get your first listing assigned to you, go get it then. Okay, because you're going to have 7 to 10 days before you're going to have to put that sign in the yard. Okay, but you do need that sign writer that says, for more information, please visit, and then I put it in larger font, www.hudhomestore.gov. Okay, and you can get them from fast signs and different places. Most of the time, if you order a couple of them, they give you a little bit of a break. I think around here they're like 15 or 20 bucks. Now, I've been doing this so long, I got all that shit. Okay, I don't have to order it anymore. I've got so many. Yeah, my garage is full of that stuff. So, and then you get it in the MLS, then you start marketing. Okay. So we'll talk more about that. Wednesday, we'll go through the ready to list. We'll go through the listing agreements, MLS, and probably start talking about bidding on the properties and if you get an accepted offer. And we'll talk about the time frames and different things like that. So, and then on Thursday, we'll finish up with bidding, dealing with other agents, and then they're ready to close. Okay. So, all right. Well, everyone, thank you for coming. Have a wonderful 4th of July.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All
Thank
right.
you. You too.
All
Thank
right.
you.
See ya.
Take care. We'll see y'all next Wednesday.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a good
Bye-bye.
weekend.
You too.
Stop the recording.